thick cloud of dust floated in the quiet Heartland barn. And under it, something waited. Something Jack never meant for Amy to see. A letter hidden for years written to Marion, long after she was gone. Today, for the first time, Amy's hands would touch the truth. The morning at Heartland began like any other. Soft light spilled through the barn windows, painting warm lines across the floor. Amy moved slowly, brushing out Spartan's mane, letting the peaceful silence settle around her. There was nothing unusual about this day, till she knelt to grab a grooming brush from the bottom shelf and noticed something odd. Behind the old wooden saddle rack, half buried in dust, was a small, worn box she had never seen before. She paused, her hand hovering in the air. Jack kept his things organized. He didn't leave boxes lying around, especially not ones that looked this old. The edges of the box were chipped, the metal latch slightly bent, as if it had been opened and closed many times. Without thinking too much, Amy slid it out into the open. Dust rose in a soft cloud, making her blink. Something about the box felt heavy, like it held more than simple tools or forgotten papers. She brushed it off gently with the back of her hand, revealing a faded carving on the top. She couldn't make out the full shape, but it looked like someone had once drawn a small heart into the wood. Amy felt a small tug in her chest. This wasn't just a box, this was personal. She looked around the barn, almost expecting Jack to appear and take it back before she opened it. But the barn stayed quiet, only the soft snort of Spartan filling the air. Amy hesitated. She didn't want to invade Jack's privacy, yet something deep inside told her this was meant to be found. Maybe not today, maybe not ever, but found. All the same, slowly, she lifted the latch. It clicked with a tired sound, like it had been holding in a secret for far too long. Inside, there were old photos, a few small trinkets, and a bundle of papers tied together with a thin piece of twine. The papers looked fragile, almost delicate. A single name stared back at her in Jack's handwriting. Marion. Her. Mother's name, written boldly, clearly, intentionally, and suddenly, the peaceful morning she started with was gone. Her heart beat faster, her breath caught in her chest. Why would Jack keep something like this hidden? Why was her mother's name on these papers? And what was she about to learn? Amy didn't know it yet, but the truth was sitting in her hands, quiet, powerful, and ready to change everything. Jack kept locked away. Amy held the bundle of papers as if they were alive, as if they might whisper the truth the moment she loosened her grip. The barn felt colder now, the morning warmth fading as her heartbeat grew louder in her ears. She slid the twine off carefully, letting the old pages open like the wings of something long asleep. At the bottom of the stack, hidden beneath memories and dust, was an envelope. Its edges were soft, its color faded to a pale yellow. But the name written on the front was still strong, still sharp enough to cut right through her. Marion. Amy traced the letters with her thumb. Jack's handwriting steady, familiar, but shaken in a way she had never seen before. This wasn't a simple message. This wasn't something he forgot to send. This was a letter he chose to keep. A letter he hid. A breeze swept through the open barn door, lifting a strand of Amy's hair. She didn't move. Felt like the whole world paused with her. She imagined Jack writing this letter alone, hurting, maybe angry, maybe broken. She wondered how many nights he sat with it, unable to let it go, unable to deliver words meant for someone who would never read them. Amy slipped her fingers under the flap of the envelope, but she stopped halfway. A strange fear washed over her, a feeling that once she opened it, things would never be the same. What if Jack said something she wasn't ready to hear? What if the letter held truths about Marion, about her mother, that Amy had spent her whole life believing she understood? Ain't. Closed her eyes, took a slow breath, and let the paper rest on her palm. This wasn't just a letter. It was a doorway into the past, a doorway Jack had locked for reasons she could only guess. Her hands trembled as she looked around the barn, searching for something steady. Spartan lifted his head and took a few calm steps toward her, as if sensing her worry. His quiet presence gave her the courage she couldn't find on her own. Amy finally opened the envelope. Inside, was a single sheet of paper. It's folded neatly, carefully, almost lovingly. She unfolded it with slow, gentle movements. The handwriting inside flowed across the page like quiet confession, like a man trying to speak to a ghost. But before she could read the first line, another thought hit her hard. Why did Jack never tell her this letter existed? That question pressed on her chest with the weight of a stone. Amy wasn't angry yet. She was confused, scared, and suddenly aware that she was standing at the edge of a truth that might reshape everything she believed about her family. The letter trembled between her fingers. The truth was finally in her hands, and there was no turning back. The first line of the letter pulled Amy into a silence so deep she could hear her own heartbeat echo inside her chest. The words were simple, almost gentle, but they carried the weight of a man who had lived with regret for too long. Marion, there are things I should have said when you were here. Amy read the sentence again and again. Each time it felt heavier. She had never imagined Jack writing something like this. He wasn't the type to spill out feelings on paper. Wasn't the type to speak to ghosts. But this letter, this strange hidden message, proved that even the strongest people carry storms nobody sees. She lowered herself onto a hay bale, holding the letter as if it were something fragile enough to break in her hands. The barn felt distant now, like she was sitting inside someone else's memory. Dust floated in thin rays of light, moving slowly, almost like time itself was trying not to disturb her. Her eyes moved to the next line. I failed you once. I fear I failed the girls too. Amy's breath caught. Jack never talked about failure, not openly, not even during the hardest ranch days. For her grandfather to write those words meant he had carried this guilt like a stone in his chest for years. Images flashed in Amy's mind. Jack standing by the fence in the evenings, quiet and thoughtful. Jack avoiding certain topics when Marion's name came up. Jack's eyes turning distant whenever someone mentioned the past. She always thought he was just protecting them, but now she realized he might have been protecting himself too. She continued reading, her fingers tightening on the paper. I should have told you how proud I was. No. I should have told you how much your daughters would need your strength. When the day came that took you from us, I wasn't ready. Amy swallowed hard. She could almost see him, Jack, younger and hurting, writing these words in a shaky hand, trying to speak to someone he loved and lost. A man who never showed. His tears had written a letter dripping with them. The next part made Amy freeze. I wasn't the man I should have been. Not for you. Not for Lou. Not for Amy. I hope someday they understand why I made the choices I did. A cold shiver ran through her. What choices? What was he talking about? Amy could feel a new question forming, one that scared her more than the rest. Was there something Jack had done, or something he had kept from them, that changed the course of their lives? She stared at the letter, her heart pounding in her ears. The truth wasn't just emotional, it was starting to look dangerous, complicated, maybe even painful. And yet, she kept reading because she had to. If they ever find this letter, I hope it's because they're ready for the truth. I never had the courage to say out loud. Amy lowered the page, her hands shaking. She wasn't sure she was ready, but the truth had found her anyway. And now, she needed to know everything. Amy sat there with the letter resting on her knees, but her mind was far from the barn. The words Jack wrote kept circling in her head like a storm she couldn't escape. The choices I made, I hope they understand. Those lines, soft, almost whispered, felt sharper than anything else in the whole letter. They hinted at something deeper, something hidden, something that stretched far beyond regret. She lifted the page again, her eyes tracing the next part with a mixture of fear and determination. Marion, the day you left us, I felt something break inside me. But long before that, I made a decision that changed your life. I carried that truth alone, maybe too alone. Amy's heartbeat quickened. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees, as if getting closer to the paper would help her understand. What decision? What did Jack do that could shake him even now? She tried to picture him years ago, strong, stubborn, protective, a man who would move mountains for the people he loved. What could he have done that he believed was a mistake? The barn creaked softly as the wind pushed against the old wooden walls. The sound made Amy jump slightly, and she looked around as if expecting someone to appear, but she was alone with this letter, this secret, this weight that no longer belonged only to Jack. Her eyes dropped back to the page. I thought I was saving you. I thought I was saving the girls. But I didn't see the whole picture. I didn't know the cost. Amy felt a chill slide down her spine. Saving them? From what? Her mother never spoke of anything dangerous or painful, not to her. Not to Lou. Their childhood memories of Marion were warm, bright. Her eyes dropped back to the page. I thought I was saving you. But I didn't see the whole picture. I didn't know the cost. Amy felt a chill slide down her spine. Saving them. From what? Her mother never spoke of anything dangerous or painful, not to her. Not to Lou. Their childhood memories of Marion were warm, bright, gentle. Nothing in them hinted at hidden danger or a choice Jack had to make to save them. A dozen possibilities rushed through Amy's mind, each one more confusing than the last. Did Marion struggle with something Amy never knew about? Was there something Jack kept away from them? Did her mother carry secrets too? She pressed a hand against her chest, trying to steady her breath. The truth felt close, like it was standing just behind the next line of the letter, waiting for her to gather the courage to face it. She continued reading slowly. If Marion could forgive me, I pray the girls one day can too, especially Amy. She carries her mother's heart. She deserves to know why things happened the way they did. Amy's throat tightened. To hear her name like that written in Jack's tired, honest handwriting made her feel both loved and afraid. Whatever this secret was, Jack believed it would reach her one day. Maybe he even expected it. A small gust of wind blew across the barn floor, rustling the loose hay. Spartan shifted in his stall, as if sensing her unease. Amy looked at him for a long moment, wishing he could somehow give her the strength she needed. Then she returned to the letter, hoping for clarity, but instead finding something even more unsettling. I promised myself I would tell her when the time was right. But that time never came, and now I fear it may be too late. Amy lowered the paper, breathing hard. Too late. For what? What? One thing was clear. Jack wasn't just talking about regret. He was talking about a truth he believed could either heal or break everything, and Amy knew she had to find out what it was. Amy stared at the letter, hoping the next lines would finally give her answers. But all she found was another clue, one that only made the mystery grow deeper. The words seemed to shake on the page, as if they carried the weight of a truth that had been locked away for far too long. Marion knew the danger before I did. She tried to protect the girls from it, but she couldn't protect herself. Amy felt her breath stop for a moment. Danger? Her mother? None of this made sense. Marion Fleming wasn't a woman who ran from shadows. She faced storms head-on. She helped horses no one else could handle. She didn't fear challenge. She embraced it. Been strong enough to chase her? To frighten her? To make Jack write a letter like this? Amy started to read faster, her hands trembling slightly. I told her she should leave it alone, that some things were better left buried. But she didn't listen. She never listened when someone needed help. A tight knot formed in Amy's chest. It sounded exactly like her mother, kind, stubborn, brave to a fault. But helping who? Helping how? Amy tried to think of anyone from their past who might have been trouble, but no faces came to mind. No stories fit. The barn felt heavier now, as if the wooden beams above her were holding their breath, waiting for her reaction. She shifted on the hay bale, her legs growing restless with tension. She felt like she was reading a chapter of her life she didn't know existed. She moved to the next line. If I had stepped in sooner, if I had taken the blame instead of letting her carry it alone, she might still be here. Amy froze. Her eyes stung. Wasn't just apologizing. He was confessing. He believed he was part of the reason Marion died. Amy pressed the back of her hand to her lips, trying to steady the waves of emotion rolling through her. She had wondered a million times why her mother's accident happened. Why Marion was on that road. Why fate chose that moment to shatter their world. But she never wondered if something or someone had pushed her mother into that situation. And now, Jack was hinting at something dark, something hidden beneath years of silence. Her hands tightened around the letter. I wanted to tell Amy the truth as she grew older, but every time I looked into her eyes, I saw Marion's fire. I couldn't bring myself to dim it. Amy blinked hard, fighting back tears. Jack hadn't kept the truth out of selfishness. He kept it because he feared breaking her spirit, the same spirit her mother gave her. She looked toward the open barn door, watching the sunlight flicker across the ground. The world outside felt too peaceful compared to the storm growing inside her. She wasn't angry at Jack. Not yet. But she was shaken by the idea that her mother's death might not have been just a simple accident. Something led to it. Something Marion was facing. Something Jack felt responsible for. Amy lifted the letter again, reading the final sentence of the page. If she ever finds this letter, may she be brave enough to uncover the rest. Amy let out a slow, shaky breath. There was more than this page, more than this letter. And now she knew. This secret didn't end in Jack's handwriting. Somewhere in Heartland, another piece of the truth was waiting. Amy folded the letter slowly, as if it might fall apart if she moved too quickly. But inside she felt anything but slow. Her heart raced with questions she couldn't even shape into words. Jack had written about danger, about choices, about blame. Now he was telling her through that final line that there was more to find, more he never said out loud. She stood, the hay brushing against her legs, and looked around the barn as if expecting the next clue to suddenly appear in plain sight. But nothing moved. No new sound, no hint, no sign. Just the same quiet barn she stood in every day. Only now, it held a secret heavy enough to change everything. Amy took a few steps, her boots crunching softly on the dusty floor. She didn't know where to start. But she knew she couldn't ignore the feeling pulling her forward, something deep inside telling her the truth was close. Maybe too close. Her eyes drifted back to the wooden box. She dropped to her knees again and searched through it more carefully this time. Photos, the trinkets, the little pieces of a life long lived. None of them looked out of place. None of them whispered the next part of the story, but the bottom of the box felt too light, almost hollow. Amy tapped it gently. A dull sound. She tapped again, this time a faint echo. Her breath caught. The box had a false bottom. She slid her fingers along the edges, searching for a loose corner. After a few moments, one tiny piece of wood lifted just enough for her to pull. The panel popped free with a soft snap, revealing a thin compartment hidden beneath everything else. Inside it lay a single item. A small, folded map. Amy lifted it carefully. The paper was stiff, older than anything else in the box. When she opened it, the lines were faded but still readable. It wasn't a full map. It's a partial sketch of Heartland and a few areas around it. But someone had circled one spot, marking it with heavy strokes, as if that place held something important, or something dangerous right beside the circle. There was a note written in handwriting that wasn't Jack's. The letters were shaky, rushed, almost afraid. Don't let them find this. Amy's chest tightened. Them. Who was them? Did her mother or whoever wrote this think someone was searching for whatever was hidden there? She closed the map slowly, her mind spinning. This wasn't just about regret anymore. This was about something Marion was involved in. Something secret, something serious. Something Jack believed might explain everything. Amy stood, gripping the map tightly. A new kind of energy filled her. Not fear. Not confusion, determination. If this was the next piece of the truth, she would follow it no matter where it led. She walked out of the barn, the letter safe in her pocket, the map warm in her hand. The morning sun hit her face, but she barely felt it. Her focus was locked on that circled spot, the one hidden place that just might hold the answers Jack could never say. Behind her, the barn door creaked in the wind, almost like a warning or an invitation. Either way she was going. The path toward the circled spot on the map was quiet, too quiet. Amy walked slowly, her boots brushing against dry grass and fallen leaves. The air felt heavier here, like the ground itself remembered something it couldn't speak about. She held the map tightly, checking the faded lines again and again, making sure she wasn't imagining this place, this hidden corner of Heartland that somehow held the truth Jack never told. When she reached the spot, she stopped. It wasn't anything special. It's just an old shed, half used and forgotten. Its wood cracked and covered in dust. A place people passed by without a second thought. But Amy felt a strange pull, like the air around her leaned forward, urging her closer. She pushed the door open, groaned loudly, echoing through the small space. Inside, the shed was empty, except for a few tools and a stack of hay bales. Sunlight slipped through gaps in the roof, lighting the room in broken pieces. Then she saw it. A square patch on the floor where the dust had settled differently lighter. Cleaner, like someone once lifted something from there, or hid something beneath it. Amy knelt, pressing her hand against the wooden plank. It moved just barely. She took a slow breath and pulled stronger this time. The plank lifted, revealing a small, secret space below it. Inside lay a second envelope. Her heart jumped. The handwriting on this one wasn't Jack's. It was Marion's. Amy's hand shook as she picked it up. The paper was delicate, but the ink was still clear. For Amy, when she is old enough to understand, a cold wave washed over her. This wasn't just a letter. It was her mother's final message, a message she never knew existed, a message Jack had been protecting all these years. She opened it, her breath caught somewhere between fear and hope inside. Marion's words spilled like a soft, heartbreaking confession. My sweet Amy, if you are reading this, it means the truth has reached you at last. There are things I faced that I never wanted to touch your life. You were too young, too bright, too full of love. I wanted your world to stay safe, even if mine could not. Amy's eyes blurred. The shed grew quiet, almost sacred. Jack tried to shield you and your sister. He carried burdens that were meant for me alone. Do not blame him. He only wanted to protect you. Amy pressed a hand over her mouth. Her mother, knowing she might not always be there, had written this with love so strong it felt like the words themselves still carried her warmth. She read the next line slowly, each one a heartbeat. There are things about my past that Jack and I could not erase. Choices, dangers, mistakes I faced before you were born. If those shadows ever return, remember this. You are stronger than any truth, stronger than I ever was. Amy's vision shook with tears. She had always wished she could hear her mother's voice again. And now, in this letter, she could almost feel it soft, brave, unbroken. The final line stopped her completely. What Jack never told you is that the day I left, I wasn't running from danger. I was running toward saving someone. Else, that is why I never came home. Amy's breath shattered. Her mother hadn't just died in an accident. She died trying to protect someone still unnamed. Amy stood slowly, the letter held against her chest. The world outside felt different now, heavier with truth, and still full of unanswered questions. One secret was revealed, but another had just opened. As she stepped out of the shed, the wind lifted gently, almost like her mother's touch. Amy wiped her eyes, steadied her breath, and looked back toward the ranch. She was ready for whatever came next.